Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness podcast. As you know, I am your host, Cammie Red, and today we're diving into the transformative world of trauma-informed communication with a truly inspiring guest, Hadassah Shoshanah. So she is the founder of More Than a Speech Therapist, PLLC, and a specialist in helping people unlock healing and growth through the power of communication. Hadassah's journey is nothing short of incredible. She's faced significant health challenges, including mold poisoning and candida, as well as navigating decades of trauma. Yet through it all, she's never lost her spark. In this episode, Hadassah is going to share how communication can be a profound tool for transformation, offering insights into recognizing and shifting patterns, reprogramming inner dialogue, and turning trauma into a foundation for living your best life. She's also one of our featured guest speakers at the 10 Dimensions of Wellness Virtual Summit this year. So make sure you grab your tickets because she's going to be speaking on December the 14th. So get ready to be inspired and empowered as we explore the untapped potential of trauma-informed communication with Hadassah Shoshanah. Hello.
Hi, I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you for agreeing to be a guest. And we're excited about what you're going to be presenting at the Virtual Wellness Summit as well. So this is going to be a double treat for us. We're super excited about this.
Yay.
Now let's just jump right in. Now, you said that the wellness industry chose you. What was the moment you realized communication was your path and your gift?
Wow. Okay, that takes me all the way back to when I was a child. I had my first helping client when I was 8 years old. I was helping a child younger than me learn how to read. And that was the beginning of my inspiration to help. And so I went into the learning resource room. I was like, how can I just help? Kept helping. I started volunteering at the local nursing home, helping elders eat, playing games with them, engaging them in activities. And then when I got into college, actually, when I was in high school, I had a chance to work with some people from my past history who were teachers of mine who had now moved into the speech and language realm. And they were teachers who were receiving cooperative education students. So I got to be in their classrooms. So my grade 4 gifted teacher was my supervisor in high school, working with a learning resource class with speech and language, working with autism and learning disability and Down syndrome and ADHD, ADD, all of this. So I did 2 years of that in high school. I went to an alternative high school where we could be in the work field for a half day and get credit for it. So it was extraordinary. And then there I met a woman who kind of helped me map out my speech language pathology career. She was a speech language pathologist. And I went to college and started volunteering at a local hospital with aphasia groups and communication, supportive communication, teaching families how to work with patients who, or their family members who have had stroke and have communication anomalies as a result of that stroke. And then just my love for communication was sparked early in age, but really the foundation of that came through when I was inspired to work with patients with affected by brain injury or stroke. And then from there, I was in Canada the whole time. And then I moved to the United States and went to a master's program where, again, I was just immersed in this like really functional use of communication to support recovery in all kinds of people. So not only did I learn how to remediate and rehab communication as a disorder through stuttering, or I don't really believe that stuttering is a disorder. I believe it's a gift. It just creates such great connection in people when you have a difference in communication. But all of these aspects of communication that we don't even think about with voice or language communication, articulation, all kinds of areas that might be affected when we live life, have impacts of life, or grow up with a developmental ability that has a difference in communication. So yeah, I've just been in this realm for a really long time. I love it. And then on the opposite side of that, through all of my traumatic experiences, all the things that I've experienced in my life personally has just allowed me the grace, that word is coming through, the grace to look at situations from a perspective of, okay, yes, this is an impact, but you came to it because you can endure it. And let's talk about it like you can endure it, so you can get to the next stage of your life having been a person who's experienced this impact.
Okay, now communication is your specialty. How has improving your own communication patterns helped you overcome your personal challenges?
Well, as you can imagine, when you experience life as a child, I know we were just having a small conversation
Mhm.
before this happened, and like people come at us, the environment is harsh, we're in various situations that really bring out humility, or they embarrass us, or we're going through just the learning process of life. And a lot of that is triggered in a fight flight response inside of us. And then we learn to build narratives along those traumatic lines, and then we reinforce those over and over and over. So my personal life has just been riddled with all kinds of trauma. And
Mhm.
I laugh because it's like, I'm going to laugh in the face of that trauma. I'm not letting it hold me anymore. Right. But when I was in it, it did hold me, and
Yeah.
it did hold me in patterns of behavior and patterns of thought that really kept me traumatized internally. And I didn't share that with the world. I shared that with only those who were really closest with me. And at
Mhm.
one point in time, I remember thinking to myself, I just can't think this way anymore. And I thought, well, if I deconstruct those thoughts, what can I do to rebuild new thoughts? And so my own personal history, and then working with people who had all kinds of anomalies and impacts to their body and their well-being, have shaped my ability to be in the midst something that is an impact or trauma or a hardship,
Mhm.
and be able to really see the other side of it, so that we're not spending all of our time staying in that perseverative space that's holding us in a trauma response. I think that answers your question.
Yes, you did. Now, let me ask you, what role has your inner dialogue played in your journey of healing and maintaining a positive mindset?
Well, it's so interesting because we, as therapists, as a speech language pathologist, we're so used to working with patients and being the positive person in their life, and to really dig deep into their psychology and pull out all of the strengths that they have, so
Mhm.
that we can build their weaknesses with the strengths that they already have. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm doing this for my patients, why am I not doing it for myself? So if I'm not able to do that for myself, am I truly helping my patients? So all of the skills that I had in counseling and my patients and their communication disorders, I started applying to myself, and lo and behold, I just kept healing and healing and healing. And my blood type is B positive. So I always used to say, like, my insides are positive too. There's just
Oh,
like
I love that. You got to look. You're be positive regardless, okay?
yes. Hallelujah. So I always had this positive outlook, and people who would meet me, that would just be like, you're so positive, you're so positive, you're so positive. And then I felt like a fraud, because inside of me, I had this other process happening,
Mhm.
and I really needed to amalgamate what I was doing on the outside with my inner world. And that's where the kind of merging of trauma and communication happened.
Okay. Now, you've described in our pre-interview questionnaire that not wearing your trauma on your sleeve as a gift. How has this influenced the way you approach interactions with others?
Well, I believe that everyone has experienced some kind of trauma, and
Mhm.
everyone is communicating from that place. So when I meet someone, my heart is already engaged. I'm already in that place of, okay, you are just like me. You have experienced some serious hardships in life.
Mhm.
You have heard people say nasty things to you. the environment has treated you poorly, and I can empathize with you in that place. And so what I can do is meet them in that place
Yes.
and say, you don't have to stay there. And it doesn't matter who else is saying that. Maybe my voice is the only voice in your mind saying, you can do this. But let's, instead of looking at the impact that you went through, let's look at your recovery through that impact as a part of you and who you can become as a result of this, not only for yourself, but everyone around you, because now you're using your impact as a means to create a better world and to create a better interaction with every single one we meet. I don't think that we have trauma as a mistake. I believe that our Creator, unfortunately, there are consequences to the lineage of our behavior through the iniquity of our ancestors and all of this. And so when we are faced with that in our life, we have a duty to stand
Yes.
up and say, I'm not going to participate in that anymore. I'm going to break free from that.
Yes.
And I'm not going to talk about it like that anymore. I'm going to talk about it in a different way, because I'm not passing that on to my children or anybody else I meet, whether they're my client or the guy at the grocery store or a little dog on the street. I'm just going to make sure that every interaction that I have with someone is positive.
I love that. Now, what motivates you to share your knowledge with others, and how has that impacted your personal growth?
Communication is such an overlooked skill. We take it for granted. And I work in the realm of recovery, rehabilitation, right? So
Mhm.
I also work with the non-clinical side. I've worked with addiction. I've worked with couples counseling. I've worked with personal inner counseling. And it's really about deconstructing these inner dialogues of how we get to a place of reinforcement. So when we're speaking from that place of reinforcement, we have to find a place inside of ourselves that says, I am who I am.
Mhm.
I love who I am. And I see how you're treating me, and I see how you're speaking to me, and I see that how you're speaking to me is a window into the inner world of your heart and of
Yes.
your mind and what you've endured. And my motivation to share that there's a way out of those shackles, there's a way out of that bondage just by listening, just by listening to someone speak, where they're at,
Yep.
what's in
Yep.
their heart. And so my motivation to share this comes from, hey, let's use communication as a tool of connection instead of a tool of bondage, or holding ourselves in bondage, or holding others in bondage too. How much do you hate it when people say to you, you can't do that, you're not good at that, what do you think you're doing that? And then this rise comes in you, because it's such a catastrophic experience in that
Yeah.
short burst of time. So my motivation comes from, hey, let's clean up the way we communicate. Let's clean up how our heart expresses itself so that we can contribute to greater and greater love, peace, connection, and bringing in a generation that is more in tune with how to contribute to the world in a positive way versus just being completely disengaged, which is what I'm seeing a lot in our
Yes.
society. There's a lot of serious disengagement, like, oh, I don't really have a responsibility. But when it comes to communication, there's a great responsibility and a serious need for accountability of what comes out of our mouths to other people and what's being reinforced inside of us.
I strongly agree with you on that one. So this is my next question. It's got two parts.
Sure.
Now, you've overcome both physical and emotional plagues without prescription. First question is, how do you stay focused on the purpose behind these challenges and use them to propel yourself forward? And the second question is, how did this journey inspire the work you do today?
I love God. I love the creator of the universe. I love the creator of the universe, and I believe that I was created in his image. And because of that, I believe that I have a capability, and that capability is inside of me, and it's a seed that's constantly growing. And it's everything that I experience on my external is pulling that seed into a further growth. Now,
Yes.
because I believe that, it gives me an opportunity to see everything that I endure as a means to support the drawing out of those skills that have been placed in me that are dormant. So when I have an impact, I don't think, oh, this is happening, which in case,
Yeah.
don't let me lie to you, right? I do think this. I just don't stay
You
there,
don't
right?
stay in that moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You got to have
Absolutely.
a real talk moment with yourself, like, oh, this is happening. And then on the other side is like, okay, I've been created with the purpose. The reason why this is coming to me is because I need to step up my game and get to the next level. And how does this impact right now contribute to me being at my best and me understanding why I was created for this time right now?
I love that. Now, I also asked, how did this journey inspire the work you do today?
Right. So I work with people who are broken in spirit.
Hmm.
They've dealt with massive heart attacks, brain injuries, strokes, dementias, Parkinson's, MS. They're debilitated. They're confined to wheelchairs. And if I can provide a small moment of hope, I know that I've done my job. And I think that's what people are looking for in amidst their challenge is the glimmer of hope. And if I can allow that to be the thing that I bring to the table for that patient in that moment, my client in that moment, then I know that I have done my job for that moment.
I love that. Now, trauma informed communication mastery. This is a unique specialty. Okay. What does that mean? And how does it support healing and growth?
So if we come into interactions with everyone we meet, okay, so imagine you come to your child, to your wife, to your husband, to anyone that you meet on the street with this awareness that every single one of them has experienced some sort of trauma.
Hmm.
How does that soften our heart? How does that soften the way that we interact with them so that we can help them get to the greatest potential in them too, so that they can be a contributor to society in the way that God created them to be? So if we can get to that place where we are so soft and considerate, accountable for ourselves, not spewing BS from our mouths as a result of what we experience and the pain that we go through, then we can allow others to also see possibility in that. And I think that's where that mastery comes from. It's a intrinsic desire to be so self-accountable, so responsible for oneself, so that when we meet each other, I'm not bleeding on you. I'm not bleeding on anyone else. I can take care of my own inner being. And of course, if there is a trauma like that, I'm going to go to the ER and they're going to patch me up.
Yeah.
Consider my work in the same manner. You're bleeding out of your mouth through all the words that you're saying, and
Yes.
I help you to rehab that so that you can get to a place where you're allowing yourself to be a contributor to someone's well-being instead of a contributor to their fall.
I love that. Now, what are some common communication patterns you see that hold people back from healing or reaching their potential?
Most often I hear people say things like, oh, I'll never get better, I'm never going to do this again, I have this much time to live, I'm never going to get married, I'm never going to have someone who loves me, I'm going to be like this forever, right? And so these things these I call them things because they take up space in our mind, right? They weren't just acquired. they were learned and reinforced, meaning they were provided to us, they were given to us, we were exposed to them, we were exposed to these words. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients on the non-clinical side, I ask questions, even on the clinical side, when I'm working through really tough rehabilitative goals, is I ask questions like, who gave you that? Who told that to you? You know, do you love that person? And if you love that person, find a way to say, I love you, but I don't receive and I don't accept those words as a part of myself, because they're hindering my progress. And I just don't want to think of myself like that. And if you're going to say things like that, do it behind my back. Don't do it in front of my face.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it behind my back, make sure I don't hear about it. And I'll be praying for you that things that you say about me don't happen to you, because what goes around comes around.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, you emphasize using trauma as a tool for leveraging your best life. How can our listeners start leveraging their own communication patterns to enhance their personal and professional lives?
It's great to analyze how you're looking at trauma, because what we can do is take trauma that has happened in the past, and the trauma is real, right? Like we go through it. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's psychological. It's all the things all wrapped up into one. At the time of that impact, that trauma was real. But in this moment, as we're talking, this trauma is in the past.
Yep.
And so how we talk about that trauma and continue to bring it up in the present, that's what needs to be shed. That's what needs to be remediated and rehabbed. So now we're looking at a bifurcation in our consciousness, and a part of our consciousness maintained itself in this perfection of what life is, in this perfect peace inside of us. And then there's this other spliced part of us that is it is a splice of our consciousness that is in a pattern of pain, and we continue to I'm seeing like a syringe and like small little drops of that being dropped into the present. And it's like, hey, remember you're traumatized. Remember you're in pain. Remember you have problems. And it's like, why am I focusing on my problems? Why would I have my patient focused on problems? Why would I have my client focused on their trauma? Instead, we want to focus on are overcoming that trauma and then leveraging that, because the reality is if we're all sitting here, we've already overcome it.
That's right. That is so
already
true.
Overcome it. So why aren't we talking about it in that way? And why aren't we leveraging the fact that we endured something so intense to a place where we can say, yeah, I did that. And I'm accountable for all of the parts that I was a part of in that.
Yes.
And I'm responsible for my own well-being in that, instead of allowing little drops of poison to continue to permeate my mind and ruin my inner perfect peace, which of course it happens. But again, it's like, it's kind of like a balloon under water. You know, if you hold it underwater, it's going to stay there. But if you let go, it's just going to come back up, you know?
Yeah. Now, you call communication the greatest untapped resource for healing. Can you share an example of how improved communication has transformed one of your clients' lives?
Oh, I have so many good stories. Oh my gosh, I have so many good stories. Okay, so I'll tell you this one. There's a guy who I worked with in Texas who his wife had fallen, and he was just so depressed. Like, you know, when married couples, they like really love each other, and then one of them, something happens, and then they just like, the other one just goes downhill. So that's what happened. So both of them were in this facility. I was treating both of them. And the husband just went downhill, had aspiration pneumonia, didn't want to do anything. And with aspiration pneumonia, and if someone's downgraded to a puree texture and they're drinking thickened liquids, it's really not a fun experience, right? It's not. Like, the food situation just really takes a lot out of us.
I've actually been on the flip side of that, where I had to make the food for people
Yes.
who were on. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So right? Like
Yep,
it
I
really
know.
changes your outlook on what's possible. And like you're just so unhappy with what you're eating. And food is such a comfort thing, you
It
know?
is. Yeah.
So he was not eating the right food. He had lung, pathologies, and he was really weak, and he wasn't participating in occupational therapy or physical therapy. So when a person is that debilitated and they're not participating in activities of daily living, then it's hard for me to go in there and be like, "Whoa, let's try some food," because if something happens and they're going to be at a higher risk, and if something happens in that risk, then they're going to be lower than they were when they first arrived. So I
Right.
was conservative in my approach with him. So I couldn't just go in there and be like, let's do some exercise, because he just wasn't there.
He wasn't there
So
physically or
I
mentally. Yeah.
I was like, God, can you just give me an answer of how I need to treat this patient? And I got a download that said, ask him about all of the amazing things and the amazing people in his life. Get him to tell you stories about his life and really good experiences that he had.
Oh.
So he would be in bed all day, and he had this wall in front of him that was blank. So I capitalized on that wall. I had him share all of his life stories, all the wonderful people in his life, how much he loved his wife, how much he loved his children, how much he's contributed to in the world. And I keyworded all of that on white paper with colored pen and cursive writing. And I made like this word collage on his wall. And all he could do was stare at that wall. And sure
Yes.
enough, 2 weeks later, he started getting up. He started going to the bathroom. He started doing things by himself. And he started finally saying, I want to do the exercise. And I said, praise the Lord, right?
Hmm.
Hallelujah. So I worked with him. His big desire was ice cream. He really wanted to eat ice cream. And when you're on a thickened liquid, you can't have ice cream because
Nope.
it melts into a thin liquid and moves very quickly in the mouth. And so he really wanted that ice cream. So he continued to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And we did the exercise. We improved his pharyngeal strength so that he could tolerate more challenging textures. And he got to a place, and the final session we had, I brought over some Tahiti treat vanilla ice cream. And he shared with me the one impact that I had on him that changed the trajectory of his recovery. And it was that wall of words. And that's
Yeah.
how powerful words are.
I love that. I'm gonna use that and just gonna let you know.
Yes, girl, use it.
Okay. Now, what advice would you give to someone who feels stuck in negative communication cycles, whether internally or with others?
Okay, so what's internal has to show up in front of us. It just does. So if we're having interactions with others that are challenging and difficult, we most certainly have challenging and difficult inner communication with ourselves. And so the best thing to do there is to do a comparison task. So you get your pen and paper out, you have one side of your paper that says, all the really great qualities of you and all of the things that you see in yourself that are great. And on the other side, you're putting all these other things that you know about yourself that aren't so great. And what's so good about this interaction with oneself is that you see that the one paper has two sides, and you have to make choices on every single moment of thought that you have, whether you're going to choose this one side of yourself or the other side of yourself. And it takes ongoing consistency, persistence, tenacity to overcome yourself, because ourselves is the biggest enemy that we have inside of
Our
us.
biggest critic.
Right.
Yeah.
So those words, even though they've been learned and they've been reinforced over time, now we have an opportunity to see that we have a choice in every single moment. Either we're going to participate in degradatory conversations with ourselves, or we're going to participate in uplifting, recovery, healing conversations with ourselves.
That's right. You can either choose to be a part of the group that's going to critique you, or you can be your world's biggest cheerleader
Right.
and be the person telling yourself, I can do this, I can achieve this, I can do this. Or you can be with those same naysayers that you're working to get away from and tell yourself, no, you can't do this, you can't achieve it. But you have to decide which one it's going to be.
And it's challenging
Yeah.
because the familiar hell is it's so comforting
Yeah.
sometimes. And to pull ourselves out of that can often feel unsafe and unsupported. And so that's why it's really important to have a guide or a mentor or someone to support through that process, because it can feel like you're being attacked. And it can definitely feel like that.
I understand that. Yeah. Now, for those new to trauma-informed approaches, what's a simple practice they can implement today to create more intentional communication?
Presence. The biggest thing is presence. So, we talk a lot about active listening, in the therapeutic realm, in the professional realm when we're working with coaching, or even if we're, health professionals or whatever, if we're helping anybody, we're really engaging in this process of active listening. And if you don't know what active listening is, go Google it. And
Hey,
I won't share with you here, but really what we want to do is, instead of just projecting that outwards to people on the outside of us, we want to project it inward and put that mirror on us and really listen to ourselves from that place. Because once we're okay with ourselves, then we can show up okay to the world. And it doesn't matter who's in front of us. There could be there's a woman down the street the other day. She was losing it over the milk not being on sale. And she was like yelling at these people at the cash registers about how the price should be the price. And if it's on sale, it's on sale. And she was just losing it. And the workers were like, what is happening right now? It's just it's a few cents, it's milk, but in my heart I was like, but it's really important to this woman. I can tell it's really important. I can tell that those 50 cents are really important to that woman. So in that moment, instead of seeing just one side, I got to see both sides. Like, hey, I can tell why you want her to be a little more quiet. And I also see her side where 50 cents is a really big deal to her. So it's being able to see both sides of that paper and being able to reinforce what we really truly want to see, and standing in the gap for that space where one person might not be getting along with the other person, kind of in that peer mediation space, or whether we're not getting along with ourselves or our spouses or people close in our family.
It's so funny because as you were telling that story, I could literally understand both sides. Yes, I get it from the cashier's point of view of, oh my God, please don't show out like this in public. But I also get it. If you budget a certain amount of money, especially nowadays for food, that 50 cents difference can make a big deal on what you can and cannot get. So I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just meeting someone in the thing that they're in and helping them to see that it's okay. Like, it's okay to feel what you feel, and you're gonna bounce back from it. And even though it might not feel like that in this moment, it's okay. Like, it's okay to feel what you feel.
Now, what's the most rewarding part of helping people transform their communication and, by extension, their lives?
Oh my God, just that, man. Holy moly. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Like, when I'm working with a nonprofit owner, and he's sometimes when you're a leader, you can get volatile, right? You can say things. And in working with him, he's just like, I just feel like I have an inner peace where I can show up into these adverse conversations from a place of real, true, centered groundedness. And I was like, this is what it's about, man. Like, this is what it's about. So even, I work with people who have been affected by stroke, where they can't speak as fluently, right? So
Mhm.
it's a little bit more halted or slow. And to be able to remediate just that kind of communication provides a person with words. There was a woman I worked with who was 3 years past her stroke, and no one taught her how to speak, and she couldn't speak. And I feel like I'm like, kind of like the silent whisper, like I can hear through the silence, right? So
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
she was very distressed about some of her care that she was receiving in the facility. And I could just see it on her face. But
Mhm.
she had not used a communication device, not used a communication board.
So how are they communicate? I'm so sorry. You're telling me
Wasn't.
story, but I'm just like, what?
Yeah, right? Right. Exactly. Exactly. Right? So I'm like, whoa, like we dropped the ball. Like, what's going on here? And I asked her, I was like, so do you want a device? And she's like, nope. I'm like, do you want to use like a board where you like point to things? She's like, no. I'm like, you want to talk? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, girl, let's do it. So we cried, we laughed, we were frustrated, we were angry, we worked really hard for an hour to 90 minutes every single day for 90 days plus 6 months, not 90 days, 6 months. I always say 90 days to transformation, but her transformation was just extraordinary in 6 months. Anyway, so I walked into the facility one day, and all of the nurses had congregated around the nurses station. They were applauding. And I had just walked in, and I was like, what is going on? And they were like, your patient ordered breakfast for the first time with her voice. And I was like, hallelujah. It's just amazing. And she was 3 years post her stroke. So it's those kinds of experiences, like even the nonprofit owner, and some of my other clients who I get to see, children, all kinds of people. It's these stories that really build me up and help me to know that this work is so crucial and so valuable, and we cannot put a price on how we communicate with one another and how we give that gift to others
Or
too.
how important communication is.
Yeah.
For her to be 3 years post her stroke and not have the ability to communicate. And then one morning after working with you for 6 months, she decides to get up and tell people what she wants for breakfast. Do
Yeah.
you know how that probably made her feel?
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, you
It
are
was.
doing God's work seriously. Like, seriously, you are
Thank
doing
you.
God's work.
Thank you for that.
All right, now you work across multiple social media platforms as well as in your private practice. How do you use these tools to spread awareness about trauma-informed communication and its benefits?
Well, I would say that this is a growth opportunity for me. And I would say that I am not using these platforms as efficiently as I could. However, at the same time, I mean, I do believe that I'm in a growth process about it. So,
Okay.
I used to do some human rights advocacy work. And when I did the human rights advocacy work, the man came after me and tore down all of my social media.
I
And
get it. I
so
get it. You know,
yeah,
at
so
one
I'm a
point we
little,
all had to,
cautious about
yeah.
things, but when I get myself out there in conversations like these, or the opportunity with the 10 Dimensions of Wellness, that summit that's coming up, and just really getting my voice out there through various conversations like these, I would say, is the best opportunity for me, because I'm already being like watched in my
Yeah.
use of social media.
I got you. I got you. All right. This is my last question for you, Hadassah. And I'm going to drop off the screen and I'm going to let you talk to our listeners. If you could leave listeners with one actionable step or any advice to improve their communication and just start leveraging it for healing, what would that be? And then tell them where they can find you online, give them your website and all of that information as well.
Okay. Well, it's just been such a gift to be here and to share information with you in this way. One takeaway, I would say, is the greatest takeaway from communication and these reinforced patterns that we have inside of us through what we've experienced and through the trauma that we've endured, is radical self-accountability. Radical self-accountability is overlooked, right? We want to blame other people for our experience. We want to blame the perpetrator. We want to blame our parents. We want to blame our children. We want to blame everyone around us for perpetuating some of these bad feelings that we have inside of us. But the key to extraordinary healing and self-growth is accountability, radical accountability, figuring out at what stage we contributed. And even if it meant contributing to the reinforcement of that trauma over and over and over again in our minds, because we just didn't excavate those thoughts from our mind. I understand it's really challenging. It is challenging to excavate these memories of trauma inside of us. But there is a light on the end of the tunnel because we are accountable for ourselves. We can't be accountable for anybody else. And in that place of self-accountability, we're getting to a place of true friendship with ourselves, true love, peace, becoming our greatest partner and supporter in life so that we can see other people's pain, that even the perpetrator was probably traumatized and did things in their traumatized space to hurt me. And I understand that. I understand that I was a victim of someone else's trauma. And what we can do is when we're radically self-accountable, we can allow ourselves to take away one traumatic experience from the world so that we can show up differently that might let someone else release one of their traumas and just keep that chain going. If you like this message today and this conversation, I would love to connect with you. You can connect with me via email. The reason why I'm doing email is because it requires communication. It requires someone to go through the process, send me an email, and communicate with me. So it's not just a click of a button. There's going to have to be a little bit of effort, a little bit of accountability and responsibility to connect with me. Hadassah at morethanaspeechtherapist.com. That's Hadassah at morethanaspeechtherapist.com. You can find me on Facebook at More Than a Speech Therapist PLLC or Hadassah Rose. Shoshana means rose. You can find me there, or you can find me on Instagram at Hadassah Rose SLP. I believe it's Hadassah Rose.slp on Instagram. But I would love to connect with you in any way that you want to connect. I just hope that it's through a mode of communication and not just through a click of a button. I'm just so blessed again to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
I put your email address going across the bottom of the screen.
Yay!
Yeah, initially, I had your website, but when you said you wanted people to email you, I immediately switched it up for you.
Okay? Can we add, there is an "a" in there, more than a speech therapist. And I share that because speech therapy it's a regulated field, but I feel like I'm more than a speech therapist.
You are more than a speech therapist, my friend.
Yes.
Like, listening to you today, there's some things that I'm going to be calling you. I literally just finished a docu-series called Turning Your Trauma into Your Testimony, where I talk to people about the trauma that they've been through and how it's so important to talk about some of those things and get them off your chest, but also to change your languaging so that it's not something that's re-traumatizing you all the time.
Right.
So
yes,
I am so very excited. Thank you for doing this podcast. Also, thank you for being one of our featured speakers for the 10 Dimensions of Wellness Summit. I cannot wait to see your presentation at this point now.
I'm so excited.
I swear you are doing God's work with everything you're doing out here. You are literally changing people's lives. And you guys, I do have Hadassah's email address going across the bottom of the screen. You can check her out at our virtual summit. I put the link for that down at the bottom as well, so that you can purchase your tickets for the December 14th event. Hadassah, again, thank you so much for doing the podcast today, okay?
Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to all the things that transpire from this.
I am too. I
Yes.
am too. Now, you guys, this is a wrap. That's a wrap. This has been another dynamic episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. We were so blessed to have Hadassah Shoshanah for sharing her journey and her expertise in trauma-informed communication. Her insights remind us of the incredible healing and growth that are possible when we harness the power of communication, both with others and within ourselves. Now, if today's episode resonated with you in any way, please don't forget to check out more on Hadassah's work through More Than a Speech Therapist. I had her email address going across the bottom of the screen and her website. And don't forget to check her out at the 10 Dimensions of Wellness Virtual Summit. And as always, we're here to support you on your wellness journey, one dimension at a time. Thank you again for tuning in. If you found this episode to be valuable, share, comment, follow, like. Make sure you share it with someone who could also use these powerful insights. Until next time, remember, healing starts with how we communicate with others and with ourselves. Take care and stay well, everyone.